Hello, and welcome to another installment of DB3's Risk It or Not. Well, first, let me apologize for not being able to put out a video last week. I am in Texas, and last week we had a natural disaster that not only impacted a lot of families, but it also impacted a lot of small businesses like myself. So, I'm going to count that scenario or event as a silver lining in the cloud for me and for many of my subscribers and viewers today, because it led me to think about many businesses that had no clue of how to even process insurance claims. And so this week I want to make sure that I give you some good information that can not only help those that are still struggling from the Texas event last week, but also to prepare for future natural disasters. As of today, I think we're about 100 days out from hurricane season. And so I tell people all the time, and I know I've made several comments on my videos, stressing the importance of commercial insurance when it comes to mitigating your risk as a small business. And as we can see, it's really critical for addressing your risk that come with doing business as a result of natural disasters, but it can also be helpful for when you have customer injuries or even equipment failures. So I think this video is really critical for a lot of small businesses, because you're not in business to be an insurance agent or anything else, but whatever it is that you actually do for the scope of work for your business. And filing an insurance claim is very complicated. And so today I'm going to share some of the most common mistakes that I see small businesses make when it comes to filing an insurance claim. But you know me, and before I can even start with giving you those golden nuggets, I have to give you a good definition of what a business insurance claim is. And so basically it is a formal notification to your insurance carrier of a loss or potential damage to your property. Okay, keywords there: formal notice. Okay, so the first mistake that I often see a lot of small businesses make is that they're not familiar with their policy. They have no idea of what is a covered peril or hazard or event. They have no idea of what's covered. And they oftentimes forget to go back in when they make major purchases like new equipment or maybe a company vehicle to have those coverages added. So I recommend that you take the time out to know what is and what is not covered in your coverages in your policy. This is also a good method to use to make sure that you don't have any coverage gaps. So don't wait until you have a catastrophic event to try to figure all this out, because at that point it's too late to add the coverages for what you just lost. So do it now, before you have a natural event like we did here in Texas, or before your next customer comes in and sustains an injury. The second most common mistake that I often see small businesses make is that they fail to notify their insurance carrier immediately upon receipt or notice of a loss. So most of the time, you're going to know immediately when there's a potential claim or a potential loss. Whether someone slipped and fell in your store and you saw it, or your manager told you about it, or you had an employee that sustained a car accident in the company vehicle, or maybe the equipment that you use every day to produce your good or your service is down and not functional. Those are immediate. And when you have notice, you need to go ahead and put your insurance carrier on notice. Oftentimes when it comes to actually determining the final dollar amount, those things takes time, right? So you want to give your insurance carrier enough time for them to start processing what you've already discovered and for them to do their due diligence and their investigation. So for example, with pipes bursting because of the winter storm, a lot of people were not able to determine that that was going to be a future damage to their property until the weather warmed up. right? But most smart business owners put their insurance carrier on notice as soon as possible and said, hey, we do have electronic damages because of power surges. We had some other type of spoilage. Maybe you have a cafeteria or lunchroom in your office, and all the food spoiled as a result. Those are things you can put on notice immediately, but you can also notify the insurance carrier that, hey, we're still evaluating our property. We have a couple of people coming out to do some service work to make sure we didn't have any more damages. That is what's needed, giving them complete and open transparency as soon as possible of the potential loss. For those other situations where you're not aware, I will strongly advise that if you receive a letter in the mail from either the potential claimant or their attorney putting you on notice, I have seen small businesses not do anything with that information because they didn't know anything about the claim and they thought it was fraudulent. That will hurt you in the long haul. So if you receive notice that way, through an attorney or through a letter, of a possible loss or damage to property, make sure you provide that information to your insurance carrier immediately. The second most common mistake I see is that, that was the second one. I'm sorry. The third one is that most businesses do not do a good job at documenting their damages and keeping records. So don't disregard damaged property. If you have equipment that failed or is damaged, do what most safety people call the lock and tag, which is you lock that equipment up, you take pictures of it, you lock it, and you put it in a stored, locked facility, closet, room, whatever. So no further harm can be caused as a result of it. Also make sure that you take lots of pictures if you have physical damages, and then make sure that you share that information and that documentation, because it goes a long way to ensure that your insurance carrier is actually going to honor your policy. So you have to show proof of damages. You just can't email them a list of all the damages that you are alleging without having some form of proof. And also, if you had to incur any expenses or temporary expenses as a result of this property being damaged or lost, make sure you keep those receipts and submit them to your insurance carrier for reimbursement. And the last thing I'm going to share is don't admit liability. So if you witnessed a client come into your facility and they slipped and fell, do not tell them, I am so sorry, it's all my fault, we'll take care of everything. You pretty much just took all of your insurance carrier's defenses away in defending you. You do not know what the cause of that slip and fall was. And so you have to allow the process to play out and have a full investigation done. Yeah, the floor might have been wet, which may have contributed to that person's slip and fall. But if they were in 8-inch stilettos and they wasn't paying attention because they were on their phone, then they own part of that negligence and responsibility for the accident. But if you admit liability, you have just given that away. So one bonus tip I will share, it varies from state to state, but most carriers have to accept or deny your claims within 15 days of receiving all of the required documentation. So they can also extend that out for 45 days for, like example, like I just mentioned before, if you put them on notice but you don't know the full detail of all of the damages you have because you have a plumber coming out or some other service technician coming to evaluate something that will add to the total claim, then they still have 45 days after receiving all of the information. But it's imperative that you file your claims and provide timely notice, because they can also deny your claim if it's in the policy that you failed to provide them timely notice within X amount of days. Most of the time when it's tied to a natural disaster, insurance carriers do allow a window of time, but be sure to be familiar with your policy and make sure that there's nothing in there that says within 48 hours of notice of a loss, you have to notify us. because then you're going to be held to that. That's all I have this week. I hope this is helpful, especially as we're coming into hurricane season. I will try to make some updated videos regarding each different line of coverage for insurance and maybe help some people there regarding how to file auto claims and what to expect there versus injured employees or injured customers and so on and so forth. But if you like the video, you know what to do. Like, share, subscribe, and be sure to check down below in the general description for some additional tips that could help you mitigate some of your exposure this season. Thanks and take care. See you next week.